Reddit users, please share your paranormal or unexplained experiences stories.
I once had a dream where I saw my deceased grandfather sitting on a bench in a park. He was smiling and looked peaceful. When I woke up, I found out that my grandmother had passed away in her sleep that same night. I believe my grandfather was there to take her to the other side.
My friend and I were hiking in the woods when we heard strange chanting coming from a nearby clearing. We cautiously approached and saw a group of people in robes performing some sort of ritual. We quickly left the area but couldn't shake off the feeling of unease for days. We still have no idea what we stumbled upon.
I used to work at a hospital that was known for being haunted. One night, while I was on break, I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. I turned around to see a figure dressed in old-fashioned nurse's attire walking towards me. When she got closer, she vanished into thin air. I never took my breaks alone after that.
I was working overnight at a nuclear power station on Christmas, so I was going to go home, open presents with my children, and catch some sleep before an early dinner and my next shift. I went to sleep at around 9 a.m. and quickly fell asleep. I fell into the most lucid dream I've ever had. My family and I were someplace lush and tropical, arriving at a resort by car. As I got out of the car, I looked at the sky and was terrified by the violence of an approaching storm. I hurried my family into our hotel room and the entire building shook as the storm arrived. I dragged a mattress off of a bed and cocooned us in the bathroom as windows broke and the hotel was battered. As the storm subsided, I told my family to stay put while I went out and surveyed the damage. I walked to the opposite end of the room, which had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a beach. The windows were gone and the curtains were hanging in disarray. Beyond them, the ocean was being sucked backward like a time-lapse video of a receding tide. I screamed, "Everyone run for the car! A tsunami is coming!" As we all ran, my children burst in and awakened me for dinner. Over the next several hours, I told dozens of people about my insane dream. Hours later, the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami ravaged South Asia.
When I was a teenager, I would often wake up in the middle of the night to see a dark figure standing at the foot of my bed. It would disappear when I turned on the lights, but the feeling of being watched would linger. It wasn't until years later that I learned the house was built on a Native American burial ground.
My friend's house was built on the site of an old asylum. One night, while we were watching TV, we heard a loud banging coming from the basement. When we went to investigate, we found that all the doors were locked from the inside.
My grandfather used to tell me stories about the ghost of a Civil War soldier that haunted his old house. One day, while I was visiting, I saw a man in a uniform walking down the hallway. When I asked my grandfather about it, he said he hadn't seen anything.
I once stayed in a hotel that was built on the site of a former hospital. During my stay, I heard strange noises coming from the empty room next door. When I asked the front desk about it, they said that no one had checked into that room for years.
I remember things from the past that I shouldn't, things that happened when I was a literal baby. Some are just images or smells, some are places. I'll tell my relatives about them and they're always a bit surprised that I know about them or remember them. When I was a child, I didn't have many toys, but the ones I treasure the most, I named with very specific names. My best friends nowadays somehow have the same names. Also, when I was a child, I wished evil things on some specific people that hurt me. They all came true, and I regret I made those wishes. Somehow all bad things that I've manifested for others have ended up happening. I'm afraid to ever do it again. A lot of my dreams have come true. I have a diary for my dreams and déjà vu experiences and keep track of them. Sometimes a situation will seem familiar and I'll try to change the outcome, especially if I remember how it might end otherwise. Probably the weirdest is that I dream of dead people. Dead relatives, I'll talk to them in a dream and suddenly realize that this is not right. When they know I've realized this is a dream and they should be dead, they give me a message and then I wake up.
While on a camping trip, I woke up in the middle of the night to see a strange light hovering above our campsite. The light stayed there for a few minutes before shooting off into the distance.
When I was a child, I used to hear a voice calling my name in the middle of the night. The voice sounded like my grandmother, who had passed away years earlier.
My family and I were on a road trip when we saw a bright light in the sky. We initially thought it was a shooting star, but it didn't disappear. It hovered above us for a few minutes before shooting off into the distance at an incredible speed. We still have no idea what it could have been.
When I moved into my first apartment here in Singapore, I met a strange old woman who lived on the same floor as me. She looked like a very demented version of Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. She was insanely tall and wore an oddly colored dress that had a bunch of random patterns on it. She also smelled very weird that it made my head spin to be around her. She told me to call her Marionette or Mari for short. She was super creepy but also pretty nice. Despite looking like she was 80+ years old, she had a lot of energy. She'd keep up with me as we walked to the elevator together, and we'd talk about random stuff like the weather and where I'm from and stuff. She was almost always just hanging out in the hallway or lobby when I got back from work or being out, and we would talk then. Even when I came back at like 2 a.m., she'd be there sometimes wearing the same outfit as before. One day she stopped showing up completely. I started getting worried because she was pretty old, so I asked one of the complex managers if they had seen her. They had no idea who the heck I was talking about. I gave them her room number, and they said no one has lived in that apartment in over 3 years, and that's not even available for rent due to renovations. I asked my other neighbors, and everyone thought I was completely hacking crazy and had no idea who the hell I was talking about. To this day I have no idea who the heck she was, where the heck she was even staying, or what the heck even happened to her.
When I was a teenager, I used to hear strange whispering coming from my closet at night. One day, I found an old diary hidden in the back of the closet. The diary belonged to a girl who had lived in the house before us, and it detailed her experiences with a ghost. When I was a child, I used to see a shadowy figure at the end of my bed every night. It wasn't until I moved to a different house that the figure stopped appearing. I later found out that the previous owner of the house had passed away in my old bedroom.
Please share your stories below. Maybe someday I will create another paranormal or unexplained experiences stories list from your stories.